We'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity for business owners and specifically employees, career life, career tips and tricks. So spreadsheets, they're magical. They're the second best invention of mankind. What's the first? Email. Email's the first. Spreadsheets are the second. Spreadsheets, if you're having struggles with your marriage, spreadsheets will solve it. Spreadsheets are the answer to everything. They really are. Does anyone have any questions?
How in the world does that work?
So Jason and Melissa, my daughter and son-in-law, they've been through, some rough patches in their marriage. And so they're fine with me sharing this. The podcast for marriages, that's good to participate. So I told them, you need a spreadsheet. And my daughter, she doesn't like spreadsheets, and my son-in-law, he owns his own accounting firm. He's more into spreadsheets, but I don't know, for some real weird reason, he didn't want spreadsheets. So finally, because it got to be so bad in their marriage that finally he told her, he's like, Melissa, we need to do we need to listen to your dad. Novel concept. 40 years of marriage, you might know a few things. And so she's like, I don't want to do a spreadsheet. He says, well, that just shows me you don't want to go ahead and, you say you want a good marriage, but you're not willing to do the work to have a good marriage. That really cut her to the core. She's like, okay, we'll have a good marriage. Then they started doing spreadsheets. So they listed out what's important in a marriage to her, what's important to a marriage to him. And then they rated it every week, 1 to 10. And so my theory is that don't like these podcasts are on a Saturday morning. I'm a little spicy, a little sassy. And so I think the reason he didn't want to do it is because he already knew he sucked as a husband and he didn't want more data to show he sucked even more. I think that's what it was for him. I think for her, I think she wanted to keep changing the scale. I think she well, this is important, and then this is important, and this is important. She wanted to keep changing. She didn't want to be boxed into, I only want, these are the 3 or 5 or 6 or 7 most important things. So all of a sudden their marriage got better. I mean, it literally went from a 2 and a 3 from her perspective up to an 8, 9, and 10. And so it's roller coaster. And I asked him, I said, Jason, why do you think it works so well? And he said, because it forced us to communicate.
Yeah.
So it forced us to communicate. So like you have to rate. So he might think it's a 10 or a 9 in an area. She might think it's a 2 or 3. I think his fear was he was thinking he was a 2 or 3 in some areas in the marriage. He was really only a 4, which is awesome. It's twice as good as a 2. He wasn't as bad as he thought he was. So spreadsheets, I think the magic of spreadsheet, it forces an individual to take their thoughts and put them into paper. It shows when somebody puts together a spreadsheet, I can see how they think. And when you reveal how somebody thinks, Einstein said you can never solve a problem on the level it was created. I would submit to all of you that, and this is participant, you got to jump in and you got to participate. We got people from all over the world, literally, on this podcast. And so I would submit any problem you have can be solved by a spreadsheet. Because Einstein said you can never solve a problem on the level it's created. What does that mean? It means that we create problems based on how we think, and we don't even know how we think. We don't know there's a better way to think. Here are some rules, for a spreadsheet. Oh, it's like, really? No, these are rules. And there's more. We'll have part 2 of this, always. And when we say always, what do we mean? This is complicated. I'm going to give you guys a little time to think and process this. I'm not saying you guys aren't the sharpest tool in the tool shed. I'm not saying you're not the brightest bulbs. Like, what does always mean? Always.
All the time.
Yeah, always. Yep. Not complicated. It's always, this is always, this is always, you always go ahead and do this. What do you think most of the time means?
Sometimes.
No, sometimes would mean sometimes.
Most
Sometimes
of the
mean,
time.
do it. Sometimes you don't do it. What's most of the time mean?
Most of the time.
Right. See, this is really what's unique about me. Most human beings don't say what they mean and don't mean what they say. I wonder why communications is so hard. Like me, pretty much pretty direct kind of person. So most of the time means at least over 51% of the time, and it might mean like 90% of the time. So give ownership of spreadsheet to the right person. In our world, it's me because of backup procedures and stuff like that. And so for Andrea, it's going to be Fred or Patty. When she creates a spreadsheet, well, unless she does it in Excel and it's already theirs, but in Google, in the Google spreadsheet, which I'm in love with Google spreadsheets because then I can give access to anybody. It's just a beautiful thing. So who has the ownership? So as an employee, it has to be the owner of the company or somebody that they designate for that. So always, and that's the first thing, it's a reflex. These are reflexes. Reflexes are things like if I throw a ball at you, your reflexes, you don't have to think, am I going to catch the ball? Your reflexes are reflexes. You do them all the time. It's not most of the time when I feel like it. Oh, I'm sorry, Mark, I forgot. No, it's a reflex. You always put a table of contents. Always. Now, why? Because in my experience, and if you guys don't understand why, I guess you can ask why. You can say, Mark, why is this so important? So you understand the value of doing it. For spreadsheets that I do, there's always more than one tab. And I mean always more than one tab. So there's always more than one tab. And so you go ahead and if you're going to, so the table of contents helps you to go through and organize things. So organize mind. So in spreadsheets are, it's like art to me. It's art and science. When I see a spreadsheet, you can almost always tell when I do a spreadsheet versus somebody else. Like I have a signature on all of my spreadsheets. There's a table of contents. Now, in this table of contents, it's not just, this is a great example of a table of contents. I was hoping that Kent wasn't going to be so fast. Way to go, Kent. You did good. So he didn't have the tabs numbered. You always number the tabs. Why? Number 3, you always number the tabs. Always. Why? Because it takes time to say, go to Kent's mistakes or ClickFunnels or email marketing. It doesn't take any time. Tab 4, tab 2, tab 1. You always go ahead and number the tabs. You just always do. Make them client ready. They are organized and look great. So if you have internal documents, well, you don't really need to make them look pretty. In my experience, you're building spreadsheets can be like it's a tool, it's a resource that you can share with other people. So make them look nice. Another benefit is when they look nice, people actually think that some time put into it. So it's just make them look nice. Don't be over crazy. But here you can see, like, okay, there's gray scale and there's gray. So it's divided and you have, these are larger. And then you have up here spreadsheet rules. So this is the same as the tab down here. And so client ready makes them, so it looks nice so we can share these. So Kent did a great job here. He's got this up here and then he's got this and then he's got, and so, all right, number 5, use formulas and functions to do things. Do not manually add things up. Man, I'm telling you, when somebody manually adds something up in a spreadsheet, boy, does that irritate me. Man, does that irritate me. I can't even tell you how much that irritates me. I see somebody, if you have a column of numbers, you use this function key, what is it? Yeah, functions. Here you have sum and averages and count and max and mean. Then you have a whole bunch of other funky stuff here that's really cool. So you go through and you use formulas. It's faster and it's not going to have mistakes. All right. Again, if you guys have questions, stop me. Number 6.
Yeah.
Yes,
I
go
have a
ahead.
question.
Yes.
Go ahead, Andrea.
Okay. Could you share this spreadsheet with us?
I can.
Okay. Can you please share it so I can look at it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, up here,
Thank you.
A1. Well, I might be getting ahead of myself. I don't remember. A1 is I always leave A1. I always put a column to the left, give it some room so it doesn't feel claustrophobic. My wife is a bit claustrophobic. And so you want it to be like a marketing piece. And so in A1, it's always the training like this podcast will go ahead and be linked to A1. I don't want to ever have to train in this again. I don't want to have to tell anyone. I'm so tired of training people. I'm so excited to do this. I'm so excited to do this training because I've trained hundreds of people. I'm like, just get it done. All right. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Cheryl.
Okay, you said counting manually. Is there something that we can set up on Coffee Connections that we don't have to manually count them?
Yes, what you do is if you go ahead and have like here, you have 1 and then you can have, if they showed up, it's a 1. And if they didn't show up, it's a 0. Or you can just say they showed up. I don't know if it'll count letters. I don't think so. So if I go here and then I just use the function and I'd use the count function. And so I just go down here and then I go ahead and add these up. So it only has a 1. It doesn't have this. So you could just put, you could just put a 0 or just leave it open and you can do here and then it goes and counts it. Yes, you can set these up to do that.
Okay,
That triggered something else for me too, but maybe I'll come back and remember. This is not an exhaustive list. There's probably going to be a part 2. Hopefully somebody other than me will train in part 2 and say, these are the parts that Mark missed. So there's a whole bunch of other things too. Hopefully, at least we got to start, right? Keep the most recent data at the top or the left, always. You don't add data at the bottom of the spreadsheet or at the right of the spreadsheet. If you're adding data, for example, here, this is set up for the name of the spreadsheet. So you put the name of the spreadsheet. So new people and maybe experienced people. So this is going to be spreadsheet rules. So I can go ahead and put, so I can go here and I can copy Control C. Learning how to do this is really cool. And then I can go Control V and I can paste it. And then I can bold this and then I can put it down and I can go here. And then you want to go ahead and do stuff like here. Like we're not going to be training in all of this, but something here. And then if I want to, I can make it look pretty and I can make it the center. I can go ahead and so what you do, you just look at what do these things mean? Be curious. You just go up and say, what do they mean? And you just do that. Then what we do is we put the link. And so I go in here and I go up here, I copy the Control C, and then I go down here, and then I use this little chain here. And then I just Control V and paste that bad boy in there. Now I've got here. So what this does is then whoever's building this spreadsheet, they go through and they can go ahead and put an X. I don't like an X. I'm going to go ahead and center this whole thing. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to center this. I don't like that, but maybe I put today's date. I could put today's date and I could just copy Control C, Control V, and I just go down here and I just check like I've done all of this stuff. It's a checklist. It's new people, they don't listen well. Well, or there's a lot here, right? So every new spreadsheet, you can have somebody go in and, oh, here's something else. Who's the owner of the spreadsheet? So I can go here, Control C, Control V, and then I say owner. and I could say Kent. So up above here, so here you have, here you have things scroll to the top. So that if you have this, so when you have something here, every spreadsheet starts out with this up here. So if I go down, then I lose my headers. If I go to the left, I use my here. But if I take this over here, this little hand over in the A1, and I go over here and I go, I'm going to put it here. That way, when I go and scroll right, I keep my kind of sidebar headers. And here, if I go ahead and take it here, then I go ahead and go down here. And then I'm keeping stuff, so I'm not losing track of what it is. When I put a new spreadsheet, most people put it to the right. Don't put it to the right. No. Put it to the left. You always have most recent. This is great for training. Like you have names of people, new hires, new employees, new team members, new clients. You always put the most recent to the left. If the data is being added on the bottom, if you have names, you always put the most recent names to the top. So what this does is that, and there's so many more, we'll probably have a whole bunch of additional training on this. So spreadsheets will save you time. Spreadsheets will solve problems for you. So most recent on the top in the left column. Push older data down, push older data to the right. So I don't want to have to go over here. So people ask me, Mark, well, how do you get an extra 20 to 30 hours of free time a week? One of my answers is spreadsheets. One of my answers is I'm always looking at efficiency. It's called quantum thinking about time. It's like if I'm doing a task 100 times a week and I can save 10 seconds, that's 1,000 seconds that I save. So I'm a fanatic on time. I don't want to waste a minute. All right, use A1 for training. Yes, A1 here. So this training of this particular spreadsheet or this particular link. Ooh, here's like, I'm really impressed with Kent. Kent's tracking all his mistakes. He's only got one. He must not be tracking them. So it's like all of it. So when you have, he could have A1 as training. Up here is ClickFunnels. It can be A1 training, email marketing, A1 training. So all of these things, the training on this, the overall up here, you put here for the training. So I go training link and I just Control C and then I go Control V, copy and paste that bad boy. If I wanted it to be in the center of the thing, which normally you don't, but in this situation, I just go center up here. So again, you learn how to use spreadsheets and spend a little time just getting to know them. They're your friend, trust me. All right, number 8, URL links to website and other documents tab, everything to save self and other people time. So here is click links. And again, you put link here. I like the little squiggly and then lowercase click and then little squiggly here. And so everything's consistent with me. So it's pleasing to the eye. So when I go into a spreadsheet, if everything's organized and everything's there, it doesn't create stress. If things are all over the place and things aren't organized, it stresses the mind, not a good stress, it's a bad stress. And so I keep like my workspace really clean. And then you can link to other documents too. So in the spreadsheet here in the table of contents, I was just teaching Kent. So here he's got links and it's for the tabs. This goes in here. There's another one. Oh, like your Action Vision coach. Talk to your Action Vision coach about this. They can actually go ahead and get you this link. So if I go in here, this is kind of so I've been building this, so it's an Action Vision dashboard. So here in this one here, I go in and it gives a description. Holy cow. Like somebody who built this, they're serious spreadsheet masters. And then in here, you have version 3.32. Every time you change, you get a new version. So this is some funky stuff here. And so here you have, description. So here's the tab. or the document. Here's the link. Here's the description. I'm going to go in and change this, and I'm going to go document, because it might not be just this here. So I go tab document. If I change anything, I go up here and I change the version number. It's reflex. So people know, because these documents, these spreadsheets will be cloned. So when somebody clones this spreadsheet, this document, I'm going to go in here. So it's like, ooh, so I've got to put a version number here. So I'm going to put version numbers. So I'm going to go, I don't know, I'll put version here, version 1.00. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to make it pretty. I'm going to put it in the center here. And so that way, when Andrea clones this, she's not going to fill in this. She's going to clone this. Then she'll know what's the difference between the parent and the child. So this is the parent document. Andrea is going to take this and clone it, and it's going to be the child. You don't want to clone from children. You want to clone from the parent. Now, she may make something for her company, for the company she works with. She may want to make something else, and I don't know. Okay, so URL link. So this is really important. What you're doing is thinking about other people. You're considering other people, making it look nice and pretty. OCD is good in this situation. And then you're linking everything. You don't want to. You're going to have 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 people doing this. All right. And then use common sense in everything and be considerate of others. Do not make them do all the work or clean up after you. Like, you want to think other people are going to be using this. So you got to have empathy. Empathy is the highest form of knowledge, they say, because it requires you to put away your own thoughts and think about other people. So you're not just using, this is a piece of art. Think back when you were in kindergarten and you had a piece of art and you drew something and you did something and you took it home and you gave it to your mom, and your mom said, "Oh my gracious, you're going to be a great artist." And then she put it on the refrigerator. Like, have pride in your work, for crying out loud. This is when we talk about spreadsheets rules, it's not just spreadsheet rules. This is a reflection of who you are as a person. And then do it now. Number 10, do not procrastinate and think, I'll get it cleaned up later. Cleaning up things now and keeping them clean. Because what we do is you look at your room, you look at your office space, I'm going to do it later. And later never happens. So it takes up more time to do it later. So you do it now. You make the time to do things now. Don't push things off later. And then always look for the fastest way to do things and always seek to get faster. You're always looking at, if you think, like as an employee, if you think you're getting paid on an hourly basis, think about this. If you think you're getting paid on an hourly basis, you have no motivation to go ahead and improve the work you do. Because if you go ahead and become more efficient, what's going to happen at your workplace? It's not a rhetorical question. Anybody, if you're getting paid hourly, go ahead.
It'll run more efficiently.
This is why I like Andrea so much. She doesn't like me as much as I like her, but I like her a lot because she thinks very different than other employees. Most employees would say they'll give me more work. That's what they'll say. I don't want to get faster. I don't want to get more efficient. I don't want to do that because they're just going to give me more work. So Tom Coons, president and past president of Century 21, largest real estate franchise in the world, he became, and he doesn't have a college degree. Over 140,000 agents, over 70 different countries, and he went ahead and it was the president of the largest real estate franchise in the world. And he has so much EQ, high emotional intelligence. He's like, the guy's insane. So he went to the guy in the office. It's great for a device for employees. So he looked around when he started with Century 21, and he looked for the guy that was everybody referred to. Like, go see this person. This person's smart. This person's this. So he went to him and he said, I was just curious. Like, I've heard your name a lot in the company, and I was just curious, what's your secret to success? And the guy said, claim unclaimed territory. And Tom's like, what does that mean? He says, if there's anything in the company that's not being done, claim that territory. You might not get paid more money now. You might not get recognition now. But when you're claiming unclaimed territory, you're learning and growing. And Tom attributes that as one of the most top 5 things that got him to be president of the largest real estate franchise in the world, is claiming unclaimed territory. And so you're like with Andrea, don't ever grow up. What I mean by that, don't ever become old in your mind. Always be young, always be idealistic. Like if I make my firm, my company more money, I'm going to make more money. I just will. It might not be like Tom says, you might not get paid to do the work today, but you will sometime in the future. You just will. And so claim unclaimed territory. You're always looking for additional efficiency. If the company is not more profitable, it cannot pay you more money. It cannot. It's got, and so everybody's so selfish. Like, I want to get paid for what I do. It's like, okay, you will over time. All right, most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time. You put your task in B column, keep A column open. This is A column here. Most of the time you keep that open. It just looks better. And then you might have a date here. I mean, you can add or subtract or whatever. And so, when did it come in? Maybe in a part 2, we might show some examples of spreadsheets. You guys could take this lesson, learn from it, come back, and we'll do a case study for you. Put names, people, events, and tasks in a column. Most recent column, closest column, and push less column to the right, saying the same thing we did before. So here we can track every spreadsheet. So when you go ahead and have a spreadsheet, you can put it in here. And then you can go through, and these are all reflexes for me. These are things that I don't think about, I just do. There's more than that's on here, because there's 4 levels of learning. We're unconsciously incompetent. We're stupid and we don't know it. That's what happens when we become teenagers, not when we're born into the world. When we're born in the world, we can't walk, we can't talk, we can't, we can't do any of that. So we see everybody else walking and talking, and we can't, and it frustrates us, so we learn. When we become teenagers, the teenage principle is teenagers are overconfident, things they should be underconfident, underconfident, things they should be overconfident. They think they can do things they can't do, don't think they can do things they can do. Andrea, she's at a level of a conscious incompetence. She's new to her position. This is a great place to be. She should never change, because this is something where she can learn and grow. She will change. Then the next level is a conscious incompetent, where we don't know what we're doing. Like, I don't know how to do that. That's where learning starts, is unconscious incompetence. We're stupid and we know it. It's a good place to be because we learn. Then we move to a conscious competence. That in that level, conscious competence, we're really good at something and we know it. And then over time, we become unconsciously competent. We're just brilliant, just phenomenal. We don't even know it. That's a good place to be for personal productivity. But it's not a good place to be for training other people or building systems. So I'm guessing I only covered maybe 25% of my unconscious competence in spreadsheets. So this I took because I knew we were meeting with Andrea today and others, teaching you how to do spreadsheets. And so I put a list together, but it's not a comprehensive list, but it's a starting list. Have thin, I like this, thin columns and rows for separators. So here we have C, column C, it's the separator. So we have separator. So again, everything like it most of the time you want when somebody sees the spreadsheet not to be afraid of it. You want it to flow. You want it to have good energy. And then I want to see as much data on a spreadsheet as I possibly can, but there's white space between. It's not claustrophobic, but I want Like, I don't want to have a column twice as long as what it should be. I want as much data on the spreadsheet. So when my brain hits it, I can go ahead and absorb so much information so fast. Add columns for URLs. So that's going to be here. So you almost always have a column for URLs. This is connecting to a website or another document or something, or a training. Like, you might have a podcast just for one of these. So you almost always have, an A, almost always have the description. You almost always have a separator. You break things up based on color, grayscale. So you say, okay, almost most of the time. And then you almost always go ahead and have D column here where you're having a URL link. Then it's fast and it's efficient and it's all organized. Almost always create a text document which gives you written instructions and details how to do something, and then a URL connected into the document together. You guys could create, if you wanted to, you could take notes. You're all taking notes, I'm sure, writing this down. And so there's almost always a text document that goes with every spreadsheet and a spreadsheet document that goes with the task, almost always. And you connect these two together. You put a link up here somewhere, you put a link like maybe below the version number, and you say link to text document. So spreadsheets are great for checklists, doing this, 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 this. This is a great example of a checklist. And then people hate following checklists. Oh, they hate it. And so it's really hard to get people to follow checklists. But airplane pilots follow checklists, even though they've flown, 1,000 times or 10,000 times, they still have checklists and they still go through them. And so you typically don't make a mistake when you're first learning something because you're really nervous about not making mistakes. Where you make mistakes is when you get to the teenage principle, where you're overconfident in something. It's not just teenagers. And so we have 7, my wife and I have been blessed with 7 children, 10 grandchildren. And so some would say, Mark, you're an expert in this. And so one of the hardest things about being a teenager is you think you can do things you can't and don't think you can do things you can. That's equally hard. That's equally hard for a parent. Same thing is true in a company, whether you're the owner, whether you're a manager, whether you're training somebody. Like, how much do you expect of people? And then how do you tell them? I don't, like with kids when they say, Dad, I can do this. And I'm like, I don't know if you can. Or Dad, I can't do this. It's weird. It's like, of course you can do that. So every 10 years, at 20, at 30, at 40, at 50, this last year I turned 60. So every 10 years, hopefully you're going through a metamorphosis and reflecting on the past decade, looking at the next decade, and you're saying, So spreadsheets, it brings out magical things like that. So the text document gives room for detailed written explanation. People need to learn to read more these days. And then lock in the scrolling header and on the left column, like I told you before on how to do. It's not always, but most of the time, you're going to want to lock in the left and you're going to want to lock in the top most of the time. All right, a lot of information in a very short period of time. Questions that you all have? No questions? This is what we call the blackout principle. In Ford versus Ferrari, for sure, watch that. When Mr. Ford, the second or third, gets in the car, and then he goes 200 miles an hour. And it's like, this guy's in love with spreadsheets. Yes, he is. Because I see it gives me more time with my wife. It gives me more time with my children. It gives me more time with my grandchildren. It gives me more personal time. It helps me to have my company be more profitable. When my company is more profitable, then the people that work with me to help that they can make more money. So it helps me and it saves me time. So I have a tremendous amount of free time because of spreadsheets. All right. So if you're not familiar with the white paper library, I would definitely, there's some really cool stuff that's going on there. So definitely connect, go through some of those podcasts and learning how to think differently. To solve our problems, we need to learn to think differently. To earn more money as an employee, we need to learn to think differently. To work less hours, we need to think differently. So it's all about us taking ownership in our lives, not blaming somebody else, but taking ownership and saying, I have the life that I deserve. If I want to have a better life, I need to go ahead and think differently. So hopefully this has been helpful to all of you. Definitely go ahead and share this with others. If you have any questions, connect with your Action Vision coach and they'll be able to help you. And always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.